All right. This is Dissonant Waves, episode 7, the Uncharted episode. We're gonna talk about 3 albums today. Violent Soho's
Uncharted 1, Uncharted 2, and Uncharted 3.
So I was too busy playing the Simpsons game. Sorry, I can't review Uncharted this week. I'm sorry.
I can only beat the first one on hard. Forgive me.
Riddle, your audio got super weird all of a sudden.
Yeah, it got like super impressed.
Yeah, I'm just preparing for the Health album.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, well, you die first.
Yeah.
Hey,
So me and Dominic, we got this.
Sick.
We've got this. Don't worry. You can die in peace.
Alright, so 3 albums. Violent Soho's Waco, Tristan's Sneaker Waves, Health by Health. And we're all going to talk about Nathan Drake instead.
Look, I never
Isn't he
played
a charming
Uncharted,
murderer?
but it was good of them to do gender equality by making a male Lara Croft.
I just don't see why we always have to go into all these characters' backstories. Like, I don't care. I don't care about Nathan Drake as a kid. Just want to see him raise some tombs and have an adventure story.
What are you on about? Nathan Drake went to my school. He was my kid.
Can't
That's
have
why
him and Elena. That's fine. But
yeah, I started playing the reboot, and that's one of the things I do not like about it is that how much story they're trying to pack in. And I just want to go raid some fucking.
Naughty Dog, I get you're a big popular artist, developer, and you gotta really impress the fans. But like,
I love how for a second there you forgot that Naughty Dog was a developer.
I was gonna call them artists.
This is a complete music
They
chat.
are.
Yeah, Naughty Dog. Yeah.
Like, not every character needs their whole life, thrust in front of the player.
Obviously, there are some exceptions, like Max.
Like, hey, what was that Eddie guy's childhood like? Let's delve into that.
Eddie Raha.
Yeah, it'll probably be just as interesting as Nathan Drake's.
Just gonna let you two talk about Uncharted, where I just casually drink my tea.
Okay, well, your mic is dead. Because it legitimately sounds like you're a piece of foil of the mic.
Hold on. Give me 30 seconds here.
We should restart the
We'll
recording.
Talk about Uncharted. Should we? No, we're unprofessional.
Yeah, fair enough.
Alright, is the mic working now?
Oh yeah, you are fucking beautiful now.
I'm always beautiful. Shall we get into the albums? It's been 3 minutes.
Right, that was all preparation. That's all part of the plan.
DIY podcast, would we edit it? Of course not.
We'll let Trix decide where to start the episode. Probably where I introduce episode 7.
As soon as I could enter.
Yep. So we're here. Let's talk about Violent Soho's Waco, aka the 90s again.
Foo Fighters, except
Wait,
Australian.
90s for Violent Soho. What?
It's just like Nirvana and Weezer and everybody just having a party in one album.
I got a super hard Foo Fighters vibe.
Yeah, actually, I thought you were saying it was a 90s album and it was made in the 90s, but no, yeah, it's definitely it's an album in which you can really hear the inspiration of.
Yes.
The biggest Foo Fighters vibe is probably off the song Evergreen, which you hear the opening guitars and bass and structure. Yeah, it sounds like Everlong.
Not the worst thing. But no. I think a lot of this album kind of sounds very similar to each other, which is a problem.
Yeah,
Like they really like
Mm.
certain riffs, they really like certain vocal stylings, and they don't stray too far from that.
The vocalist
So-
sounds like Tom DeLonge.
And I'm gonna kind of
Unless
disagree with
nasally
that.
Tom DeLonge.
So a lot of the way that Luke Boredom, the lead singer, pretty much the songwriter of Violent Soho, loves to write his tunes is to have that kind of soft intro and kind of loud chorus. It is a similar structure that you again find throughout the album, which when it works, it's great, but admittedly, it really does get old and it does make the moments less impactful. I've decided to choose this album not because I think this is the greatest album of all time. You can see on my Last FM profile, obviously I've listened to this a shit ton, but that's just because I'm a fucking edgy kid. The real reason I wanted to choose this is to kind of do like the kind of whole has it really held up since 2016 when it came number one in the Triple J artist poll, albums poll. Sorry.
Yeah, this is like so many of these songs seem to be like a really big deal back then. That's what I kind of got from when I was reading about it.
Oh yeah, and it was 5 out of the 11 songs in 2016. Well, technically only 10 of them were eligible because one of them was the year before. Made it into the top 100 countdown. I think at around 91, 73, 69, 53, and 14, if I'm correct. But that is just my random guess. So, at this time it's released, it was a pretty big album. I mean, I was one of the people who voted it in because I genuinely enjoyed the album. And I still do. However, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did when it released. I don't think there's anything bad about the album, but there's not really much to take away anymore. Yeah, there's songs in there like Viceroy and Hell to Taste, in which I think that kind of loud contrast is perfectly executed. And there's some really great, those two are some really great songs, but again, you can hear a lot of that inspiration from the 90s, and it starts to beg the question, is it really inspiration or kind of just ripping off?
Especially because like the last half of the album kind of goes into that very specific direction, and I feel like Evergreen sounds like Everlong, but like kind of Slow Wave, Holy Cave, Waco, they all kind of bleed together in a weird way, where they kind of explore very similar riffs and like ideas. And, like they're not totally similar, but
in a better way.
What?
I got that with Health too, but in like a better way. Just trying to get stuck.
Yeah, I didn't hear a single thing that Trix just said, but I'm gonna.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was just me because it usually seems to be just me, but
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it was a bit like dying down. I don't know if it was just us.
I think I think my microphone might have fallen behind my shoulder.
Maybe.
But I got some of the It All Bleeds Together Health
Yeah.
better way.
Well, it's definitely the most consistent of all Violent Soho records. So far, they've only put out, I think they put out 4, but the first one is incredibly hard to find. It was like 1,000. I think it's like 1,000 copies that are all in America.
weird.
Yeah, because before they broke out in Australia on their third record, Hungry Ghost, with the song Covered in Chrome, which that one still holds up as one of my favorites. But before that, they only had a small underground following in the United States, despite being an Australian band.
I read that they had like moved here for a while and was recording here for a while.
Yeah, for their debut and their self-titled.
Okay, that makes sense then. So maybe that's why they have an underground following.
Listen to their self-titled, which I won't. I probably won't ever do on this podcast because there's really nothing to talk about on that one. There are some really fun tracks on there, but it is one of the more edgiest albums you'll probably hear lyric-wise.
Okay.
Like the song Muscle Junkie, which the kind of pre-chorus is just fuck you, I hate your face.
Oh,
Okay.
so like early Rage Against.
And if you compare Waco to a lot of Violent Soho's earlier stuff, there is actually quite a lot of growth on it. There's a lot more cleaner production, more consistent songwriting. Yeah, a bit of it does feel a bit too inspired to be unique. I do think every single one of these tracks on Waco has been executed well enough to be a great track. Because again, I don't think there's anything bad off this. There's nothing grating.
The production is very good.
Yeah, production's great. It's again, you do get that nice contrast between the soft and loud songs. Like it's not songs, moments, and every song. It's just that the problem is that they are a little bit too often, and it does take a lot of the impact away from it.
And I think that might be part of why I get so tired of it in the second half, because it's like that's a lot of what these songs are, is that.
The second half is definitely the weaker side to this album. I think tracks like Waco and Low are actually... Low is a good closer, but it's not great in the context of the album. Waco, I actually think, is probably the strongest point in the whole second half of this album.
And Low for me was like, oh, this sounds different. I kind of dig this, because everything before to me was like, oh, okay, that riff I recognize. That it's another like Cobain thing again. Okay, but Low was a little bit more atmospheric and mellow. I really appreciated that, at least.
So just drink my tea here.
The taste though is really cool. It's a great opener.
Yeah. Fuck, I drank my tea wrong. So I reckon one of the songs that still, like I was saying, one of the songs that still does stand the test of time from this album. Whilst all the others are still great, they haven't been as great as when I first heard them. How to Taste is a perfect opener for this album. Context-wise, it brings the sound that this album brings throughout the whole, like, delivers throughout the whole 40-something minutes.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. And it's got that, again, it has that really soft start, but when it hits, it's a really impactful hit into the whole kind of beat of the song.
I will say,
I think... you go first, Joyce.
Viceroy.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, you got to fix your mic, hey, bud.
I'm gonna reconnect. Give me a sec.
Yeah, no worries. Elevator music while trick sounds bad.
Hear me now.
Yes.
It's much better. Yeah. Okay. What were you saying?
Yeah, okay, I had a connection issue. I gotta say, I really enjoyed the all-bass intro to Viceroy.
Yeah. That's why Viceroy is probably one of the other songs that really does stand the test of time. The bass on that song is incredible.
Oh yeah, just P bass with a pick.
I was kind of bothered by Viceroy because it sounds like Viceroy is such a specific word, and the way they put it in the song is kind of weird. Like, we need something to put in here. What's a word that sounds smart? Viceroy. Okay.
I'll get the lyrics up to Viceroy. Just a genius, because they haven't ever really given out the meanings to these songs, or at least I haven't ever found them. So people have kind of made up their own theories. There's some people who say Viceroy is a song about how technology is taking us over. Knowing Violent Soho, I don't really think that one's true. I think it is a bit more likely that it is the other theory, that it's a song about Tinder. And the whole Viceroy quote is supposed... who's it supposed to be referencing? That whole ruler... The definition of Viceroy is to be a ruler exercising authority in a colony or on behalf of a sovereign. That's the definition that it says on Genius. Not anything that I know by heart. And it's supposed to be I guess referencing how they would always like only last a short time or something like that. I don't really know. Violent Soho don't always put out meanings to the songs. I don't really think they really have that much meaning
They
lyrically.
don't have to. They don't
No,
have to at all.
that's
No.
on their other album, Hungry Ghost, with Covered in Chrome. I haven't actually said the full meaning of that, but it's just a punk song. Who gives a fuck? But they did talk about some of the lyrics and about how they literally just went onto Wikipedia and found something, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool. I'll reference that." So it is quite likely that they just went into Wikipedia again, saw Viceroy, and just like, "Yeah, I'll reference it."
Well, when I heard Viceroy, I immediately thought of the brand of cigarette.
Yeah, Viceroys aren't popular in Australia though.
Yeah, they're a Canadian.
Mm. I don't even know what the popular cigarette brand is in Australia. I know it's just not right. Viceroy though.
I think, don't you guys pay like $20 a pack or something?
Yeah, our cigarettes are incredibly expensive, and they have like just disturbing imagery on the back.
Oh yeah.
But we still buy 17 packs a day, so
Wow.
the chat's
they're
aren't
expensive.
wrong.
Yeah, it's expensive where I am right now, but I have if I'm really feeling it, I can go to an Indian reservation and pay less. I have that.
I don't smoke, so
I'm like a pack a month. Like I'll have like a couple on the.
I'm like a pack, like 2 years. I literally I don't buy. I just bomb off other people.
And you suck.
Well, you see, we usually have a culture in Australia called if someone comes asking for a cigarette, you usually give them one and you have a chat while you're having a smoke.
A different culture from here in America.
Either that or an absolute drugger comes up looking for drugs and you're like, sorry, I don't got one, you want a ciggy instead.
it's like a defense.
That's Australian smoking culture. Yeah, yeah. It's really not much to it, it's just ciggies.
Get the feeling
So
that
the initial single to this album was the song Like Soda. Whilst I still do feel like that song is on the like on the higher end of quality of the songs on this album, I'm not sure if it's really stood the test of time. Back when it was released in 2015, it was quite popular in Australia. Again, that one I think made 15 in the Hottest 100 that year, which means obviously a lot of people liked it. I remember seeing a petition on change.org to change, just someone making a good joke of changing the national album to Like Soda. National anthem, not national album. Fuck me. I don't know. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on that song is.
The album was good. That's all I got.
Soda was fine.
As much as I ragged on it for being fighters, but not as good. It's all right.
Don't get me wrong. I still think this is a good album as well. I just don't think it's as good as I originally hyped it back in 2016. Granted, I did just come out of high school that year. I was in my first year of uni, so obviously I was still a bit of an edgy kid.
Are you younger than me? Holy shit!
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm the youngest mod alive.
I want to say you're technically the only millennial on this podcast. We're both.
Wow. Yeah, I'm like technically a millennial. I'm like so late 94, and yeah, that's a weird place to be in.
I still have a lot of good memories with this album, though. I got it. I believe I got it for my birthday that year on CD because I don't have Spotify account or anything, so I still had all of my music just via CDs. So I hadn't actually. It was out for like 2 weeks or something before I got it, and I hadn't listened to it yet. And I remember just like instantly plugging and putting it into the computer, instantly ripping at it, and just like shutting the doors, going straight into it.
No way. I'm like really into the idea of like Australia coming around and like kind of gathering with this 90s tributed like Nirvana-esque album. Like it's such a weird thing, I feel
Well,
like.
Riddle said it himself that Australia is behind in everything, so next behind on their style.
I mean, I guess, but
We've always been a pub rock type of country, and I feel like Violent Soho still has some pub rock influence in there. It's not as obvious as other bands, say like Dune Rats or the Chats. But a lot of rock/punk artists like to write their songs more to put on a live show, and I've seen Violent Soho live. They're fucking great. You have pretty much a packed Enmore theater, which is around 800 people or something like that. Just you have a seating section where literally no one is in their seats the whole time.
I just don't know if, like, I guess if America could ever come around an artist like that anymore, like the Eagles of death metal or something like that, and how they
But
could.
Eagles of death metal, they're like already established artists. Like Josh
Yeah, I mean,
Homme didn't start off in Eagles of death metal.
no,
No,
but
he
like
He
started
started
Queens
off
of
in
the Stone
Caius,
Age.
didn't he? No, it was Caius, wasn't it?
he's in
I don't know.
no, he's in what is it? Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah, he's in Queens of the Stone Age, but I believe he was in Caius before Queens of the Stone Age.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
He was definitely in Caius. I need to search it out more. I feel like Australia is a bit better for underground acts to get a lot more attention in the country because, well, whilst America does have a couple stations that like to bring up these really unknown acts, like NPR does contests for Tiny Desk. Australia is a lot smaller in population, so a lot of these artists have a better chance of getting noticed. And we have with Triple J, pretty much our main underground music station, has a thing called Triple J Unearthed, which is just a digital radio station. Which the only things that get played there are artists that have uploaded to Triple J Unearthed. And sometimes the main radio station grabs songs from that and plays it on the main radio station as well, which really does help bands like Violent Soho. Although Violent Soho wasn't actually an unearthed act because they kind of just broke out here after a stint in America.
Also,
But I
I
feel like
have
that's
Josh
fine.
Homme's musical groups
You
up
got-
right now.
Yep,
Queens of the Stone
yep,
Age, obviously. Eagles of Death Metal.
yep.
Caius. Them Crooked Vultures. which
Yeah,
is
Dan
fairly
Crooked
recent.
Vultures has
the
only
Desert
still put
Sun.
out one album, haven't they?
Yeah, 2009 to 2010.
Mm.
Yeah, it says they were active from the Desert Sessions, Screaming Trees, Mondo Generator, 15th Teeners, and Masters of Reality.
I didn't realize it was in Screaming Trees.
any of those also feature his wife because Brody Dahl is amazing, and she deserves more recognition.
How many times has Josh Homme been in a band with Dave Grohl? Or done an album with Dave Grohl just in there? Because I know Queens of the Stone Age gets that with Songs to Death. Them Crooked Vultures has Dave Grohl, doesn't it?
I don't know. I'm not up on my Josh Homme.
Ah.
So, yeah, Violent
I
Soho.
think that's probably the much we can talk about with Waco. I still like the album. I don't like it as much as when I originally heard it back in 2016. I don't think there's anything off here that I'll ever skip when I listen to the album in full. It's still an enjoyable listen.
So sentimental.
Mm,
So best and least favorites.
I reckon my least favorite is probably Evergreen. Again, every time I hear it, it just sounds too much like Everlong. But so it's really been the only track of the album which has never done anything for me.
Hmm.
It's not a bad song. I'll never skip it, but it's just not as entertaining as anything else that this album can be. So I had to say Evergreen
Yeah.
is probably my least favorite. Back in 2016, I actually ended up voting for Viceroy as one of my favorite songs of the year, and it's definitely still up there. But every time I listen to the album, I'm really switched whether my favorite is How to Taste or Viceroy. But I reckon it's probably still Viceroy.
All right, Tricks.
Least favorite for me, Evergreen. It just feels like Everlong too. Like there was a time when I was just like listening to it in the background while I was playing. I think it was Tomb Raider at the time, and I'm like, wait, is this just Everlong? And I'm like, oh no, it's Evergreen. And favorite, as I stated earlier, I really love the intro to Viceroy. Just that
So-
ripping bass played with a pick.
As it falls to me, then, my least favorites. I don't like Viceroy. Like I said, that lyric really stuck out to me and really bothered me. Like I don't know. It just like okay, you looked at a dictionary or something. I get it.
Yeah, no, that again, Luke Borden loves to look at Wikipedia, and I would not be surprised if he literally just hit random on Wikipedia a lot of the times writing this album.
Fair. That's totally
It's
fair.
I mean,
look,
I've
if
done that
it's a
before.
songwriting technique, and
It is, and sometimes it works, sometimes
If
it
it-
doesn't, and this one
Yeah,
didn't
it
work.
can- you can find it
Like, what comes-
pretentious. I think it's fun,
Okay.
but
What comes to mind is what was that fucking show? Phrases from a hat.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
Hmm.
It just this specific
But-
time was like okay, it's too far.
that's fair though. You can say that feels a bit cheesy or something, and that's a fair criticism.
I think Holy Cave was also
What
the
was-
point in this album where I was ready for it to be done. Just I did not like Holy Cave. Did not enjoy listening to it. Favorites though, I really like How to Taste, and I like Low.
Whose line is it anyway? That's the show I was looking for.
Hmm.
Whose Line Is It Anyway podcast. That'd be really fun.
So I'll put on just before we go into the next album that Violent Soho haven't put out anything since this album. They haven't broken up or anything. They're still heavily touring. They play a lot of festivals when they can. Luke Borden does a lot of production for other artists. One of the big albums in 2017 that he produced was Tired Lion's debut, which ended up also being in my top 10 for that year. And the bassist, I forget his name. I think it's like James Tidwell or something like that.
Luke
Is
Henry.
actually running his own record label in which he gets another bunch of these kind of indie artists and signs them to him. One of them being this band called Dear Seattle, who put out an EP back in 2017 that was just fucking fantastic. Unfortunately, their debut that they released this year didn't quite grab my attention, but they're definitely a band that you should be looking out for if you like that kind of whole 90. They are heavily inspired by grunge and punk.
I appreciate when I was looking at this band that they seem to be like their philosophy seems to be this band is cool, but we also have lives and stuff that's important too.
Yeah, they've
and
never
jobs.
treated Violent Soho as a job. They've treated it as a hobby. And
I can totally see that in their production style, and that's cool. I appreciate that.
there is a lot of in the history of Violent Soho that I recommend people who listen to this podcast just check out. Check out their Wikipedia page. Maybe you'll get some songwriting off it. there's some fun stories that are in there about how I think it was Luke Borden was he got pissed that he couldn't go to the big day out because his parents were grounding him, so he threw his cereal at the wall and stuck out of the house. I think didn't need that specific of the cereal on the roll, but I damn wanted it.
And I would like to correct a past mistake of mine. I looked up a photo of the bass player playing a PVT 20 instead of a Precision. It's a similar bass, but I just wanted to put it out there that listen to this podcast.
I'm still waiting for them to put out some new material. Again, I don't think they're as great as I originally thought they were back in 2016, but that doesn't mean I think they're bad. They're still a good band to listen to, and I'm still anticipating when they're going to release some fucking new material.
Hopefully soon, right?
Hopefully. I mean, they're still appearing at festivals and shit in Australia. They got to be having something out at some point. It's been 3 years.
Let's talk about health. Not Trix's health. Trix is dying.
Nope, my health is in the gutter right now.
It's okay. We'll muddle through. We'll be fine. Let's talk about the band health.
I'm sipping in Arizona. Oh shit, I'm done with my Arizona.
Health is a LA noise rock thrashy band.
Static.
Are you saying they're
There you
static,
go.
or are you just?
That was the 28 minutes, just like wrapped into 5 seconds.
Okay.
Static.
And then their first album
we
is
go.
very emblematic of their early sound of just being very experimental and fuck it, whatever, let's do shit. And their albums since then have gotten progressively more melodic and listenable in the sense of like their hooks, and it's more of an industrial pop band now, but they still have this kind of streak within them. And I thought talking about this album would be interesting because it's a very avant-garde, like abrasive album, but it seems to have a lot of appreciation. I mean, it's responsible for next week's album that we're going to talk about, Crystal Castles, but also like it's been included on like the
spoiler alert.
Yeah,
God.
I know. But it's also been included in like 101 albums you must listen to before you die and stuff like that.
So I'm just going to put this out here quickly. Sorry, I don't have to do this ever again. I just want to do the quick comparison to last week's LSD. Sound-wise, there's no real comparison. It's just that both of these albums were quite experimental and trying to just throw shit out there. Whilst LSD was probably a lot more melodic than this is, I found myself enjoying the rhythm more to this album, but I am still quite mixed on this. And I sometimes just wonder, like, just because you're throwing a bunch of shit out there doesn't mean it's great. And there's some really kind of cool moments on this, which do sound like kind of a descent to hell, but they're really uncomfortable in a bad way sometimes. And I'm really not sure how I feel about this album, because I don't think it's a bad album. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's a bad album. I think there's quite a lot of consistency in this album. It is quite unique. It is pretty much 27 minutes of static noise, but
I don't know my music nerd hat for a minute here and say that it reminded me a lot of some of the later impressionists by like John Cage or Philip Glass. It was very experimental. Like to me, it had like the same kind of vibe that like John Cage's like kind of prepared piano had, where it's like, okay, we're just gonna jam a bunch of shit in a piano and see what it does. Whereas like we're gonna try these different sounds and see how it works.
See, I feel like this week was a much better week than last week. I think
definitely.
I think I would put probably every one of these albums at least on par with Petite League at worst.
Interesting. Okay.
Because going on from last week's episode, I'm kind of starting to realize that Petite League was probably the best album. No, I was never too sold on Bag Raiders. There's some great moments off there, but there's also some really boring, and particularly consistency is kind of like just taking over the winning spot there. I'm still not that much of a fan of Petite League, but I think I enjoy every one of these albums just a bit more than it.
For me this week, go on, Tricks.
Go on, Tricks.
I just said that's understandable.
Okay. I can't always hear you, so when you start talking,
Nah.
Anyway,
My bad.
But
that's understandable.
Like for me, I didn't really have a clear front runner this week. I felt like none of them are truly number one for me. So it was kind of like an accordion in the sense of like these could just kind of all fold together. But if I really stretched out, I could probably figure out who's on top. But because like I like the Health album, I picked it obviously. But like, yeah, it's abrasive. It can be hard to listen to. It's not like, gonna go out there and win all the medals or whatever. Like, it's gotten a lot of appreciation, and like as a starting point for this band, it is really interesting. But like, yeah, it's hard to just say, oh, it's the best one.
I feel like I do have a pretty clear 3-2-1 for this week. And the Health album, it's really a mixed bag, and I know I'm going to be saying that a lot, but that's just kind of what it is. It's really hard to get into, but I think its short length actually helps the album quite a lot. Because if this was a 50-minute of all of this, I would probably just have listened to it twice and then just said, I just can't do it again. But when it comes to just that short length, it is much easier to get into it, despite the sound. It just goes like, yeah, they're pretty short sounds, and you kind of get a little bit of newer sounds like once every 2 minutes on this. So if something starts to get a bit annoying, it's pretty much started to switch to the next song anyway.
Yeah.
Tricks, what do you think? More than just like being kind of an avant-garde comparison to like Philip Glass and all that.
Well, I really said what all that was really there to say about that. Like, I have a feeling if I showed this in my music theory class when I was in high school, I would have been laughed at. But I think my teacher would have gotten some for it, though. I don't know. But yeah, it definitely felt like experimental in the way of like the early synth pioneers were with where they had the synthesizers with like one oscillator that were the size of, and they would try and write pieces for it, and it would also often come out sounding like noise. And so I get reminded of that a lot with this album.
I gotta say, one of the most inconsistent moments of this album goes to the start of the outro track, in which every time it has played, I've had to go check to make sure that I'm still on the same album. Because the intro sounds like it's going to that song. Sounds like it's going to turn into this heavy death metal track.
Yeah.
I just don't trust it. It sounds completely different to the rest of it. And that's one of the most inconsistent moments of this album. I don't mind the intro. I don't think that as a whole is done bad. I just think it's way too different, and it's not really contrasting. It's just different, inconsistent way.
The reason I did pick this album, I think the drums on it are really spectacular. Like, there's a lot of great drum, and like just it's mixed really loud, so you kind of hear it all the time.
I think the drumming is pretty much the heart of this album, actually.
Yeah, like you can kind of hear
it's supposed to give up quite a bit of a haunting vibe with those drums in that intro as well that I was talking about.
Too, like, and then there's like a lot of sound, a lot of like experimental stuff, and like the drums I feel like are kind of the core that kind of roots everything, where you can listen to all this noise but you still have something you can clearly identify, kind of rooting you in like what you can expect to hear.
Later in this podcast, I'm going to do an album that has literally no drums, like a year of lyrics.
one of the other moments that was really quite memorable, and I think this is probably actually the highlight of the album, because if I was to show anybody this album and do a real quick recap of it, I would just play the whole of Girl Attorney.
That
was a
I
good
love
song.
Girl Attorney.
Yeah, in 37 seconds, it's this real all over the place, just everyone barging in. I think that's probably the peak of this album. It's quite early on in that 37-second thing, because it's odd, it's surprising, but I'm actually having quite a lot of fun with that track.
Also like Courtship for kind
Glitter
of the same
Pills was
reason.
also pretty good.
Pills, you said?
Glitter Pills, yeah.
It's the one that's like really funky and groovy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it kind of gets the clap machine going.
Actually, there's a sound on Glitter Pills, which I will compare to the album that I'm doing next week, is The Big Scariest Animal. And there is that kind of bass that
Yeah.
just the tone that it's in reminds me specifically of one of the songs of Big Scariest Animal.
One thing I always come back to is the scream in Courtship. Like, I knew people in high school who could scream like that, and it always really tripped me out. It's like, is that the album, or is that like somebody? Or is that like real, or is that like just kind of someone screaming, or is that like pain?
You know, like when songs have the bloody police car siren in it, and you just turn back and like, is that a police car? Every time you hear Courtship, it's like, is that one of my high school?
No, like I have very distinct memories of like being in high school and like hearing somebody scream just like that and being like, wait, what the fuck did you just do? Yeah, it was a very strange moment.
Anytime someone wanted to show off how loud they can scream, it'd just be the penis game. So
Oh, fucking love the penis game.
penis game's great.
Ah, who doesn't love
It is a great game of confidence. So
Oh, it is. We would play it in my chorus class in front of the fucking teacher, and he would join in.
you should see some of the music classes that happened at Penno High. It was a game of how many times can you set the fireworks settings on the keyboards? And just like every time she started talking, you just hear fucking fireworks everywhere. Beautiful.
That's hilarious.
Like teachers don't usually deserve bullying or anything like that by their kids, but this one kind of did. She was really a bitch. I remember once I tried to kind of help out. I turned off one of the keyboards that was on, and she had a go at me. And I was just like, well, fuck, you can just have the fireworks playing all class. What do I give a shit for? And guess what? There was fireworks all class. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? Sometimes you're your own worst enemy.
Sounds like you're on a real crime wave there.
Yeah, long story short, the fireworks were less abrasive.
It is like I've mentioned this in the pre-show. I don't know how much of that's going to be in this, but like, actually, I don't know we were recording it. But Crime Wave is weird in that Crystal Castles, they remixed it. It's in their first album, and that was the first single for both bands. And
for someone who going into this had actually only ever heard the Crystal Castles version of Crime Wave, I was really surprised that this is the sound. Well, thank you, Trix. Guess I'll just go die.
The sneeze.
What was that, Ritalin?
I don't even want to talk to him. Yeah, coming into this, I had only heard the Crystal Castles version of the Crime Wave, so I was really surprised at the whole sound that Health brought to this album. I used to come out as not really a fan of either version of Crime Wave. Sorry for the 5 people who are going to shoot me because of that.
The fun thing is that Health likes to release albums of remixes after they do an album. and I could see that kind of being like the genesis of it because that was kind of the early hit. And it's weird for it not to be on this album. I totally get why it's not, but it's a health song. Like that is their song, and for Crystal Castles to kind of co-opt that is kind of strange. I feel like.
Well, it is mostly seen as a Crystal Castles song now, anyway, because that's the most popular version of it is the Crystal Castles remix. Even though it's not even Crystal Castles' best song.
No, it's not.
Not in love. Da, da, da.
Any other highlights for anybody? I think Lost Time, like it is kind of weird and how it fits in there, but like it kind of, I think Lost Time is really emblematic of kind of what they go for, especially in those early days of like very atonal singing, Gregorian chant-esque, just like weirdness.
Look, there's a lot that I admire about this album. I think the length of it is perfect. Nothing overstays its welcome, and when you do this type of sound, things can really overstay their welcome quite quickly.
Oh yeah, have you ever tried to listen to a Philip Glass CD in entirety? One of his more grating ones?
Nope.
Exactly.
Shout out to M to being a very mysterious track with a very mysterious name. I think I'm trying to figure out if
// M //
I feel that that's some kind of like drawing, if that's like a body of some sort, like some legs and a dick or something, or some arms and a dick maybe.
I think the other kind of highlights of this album is I love its consistency. I love that it's quite unique of a sound. It isn't that generic experimentation that I was talking about last week with LSD. They have gone out, tried something different, and it seems like they are having a lot of fun with this album. I do think that the sound gets a bit too grating at some moments. Again, I thought Crime Wave was actually one of the low points of this album.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's a really interesting listen. I didn't come out of this hating it. I didn't come out of it loving it. I don't think this is an album that I really would recommend to much people. Granted, there's not much people to recommend it to. Most of the people that you could recommend this album to have probably already heard it. It is that kind of grating of a sound.
Yeah, and like there's a reason obviously they moved away from it, especially as they kind of gained fame, and you know they're making like tracks and soundtracks for Rockstar games and all that stuff. You know, they did Max Payne 3 in its entirety, and that is like a true evolution of their sound.
But I think this is quite an admirable album. It's not going to be a loved album. I'm not going to even rank this album high, but I do think there is quite a lot to admire from this.
It's interesting.
It's like the Zuzu album that I listened to this year, The Girl with a Basket of Fruit. I could not get into that album at all. It is incredibly grating, and it really did surprise me. But there is a lot to admire in its production. Shall we get into best and worst if no one else has got anything to say?
I don't really have anything else.
What's your best and worst favorite?
Glitter Pills is probably up there as well. I don't even know. A lot of these songs blended. Like I distinctly remember hearing a riff and checking the song, and it was Glitter Pills.
Yeah, it does somewhat blend in a bit. I won't disagree with that. I think my worst track has to go to Crime Wave. I don't like it. And my favorite is Girl Attorney. I think that's the peak of the album.
For me, I think my favorites are Girl Attorney and Courtship, just because they are very short. They compact a lot of stuff in being less than a minute each. And I don't know, my least favorite might be Heaven, just because there's a lot to it, and it's only like 2 minutes 30 about, but it feels long, and would rather start with something a little more interesting, like maybe not Girl Attorney, but I like Crime Wave. Maybe put Crime Wave at the top. It's at least a little bit more energetic. Heaven's kind of always like the little thing I have to go through.
Mm. Chicks, would you like to introduce the next album?
Yeah, just warning you, I've got another. The album I chose was by Gaspard. Going on.
Yeah, there was so much cutting out there. I don't know if we caught any of that.
Okay, so it's not just me.
This album I chose was Sneaker Waves by Tristan Gasparderic, just going by
That is much
Tristan
better.
on this album. And I stumbled upon it, like I did many of my other records, just going through like the Spotify indie playlists. And I just really enjoyed it, and it stuck with me.
See, I'm just going to piss you off straight away by saying I think this is the most boring album out of the three.
Yes.
And I can respect that.
I don't hate anything of this album, but I can't remember much to hate.
Agreed.
There's some moments like in Glass Jar where I remember that chorus like, what would you do if I was standing around in front of you? That's one of the only moments of the album I can fucking remember. I don't think anything of here is bad, but it's just so samey. It's a chill listen, but I can't go recommending something that I can't remember.
I feel like you need more than a week with this album, I will say that.
Wait.
Yeah, I've given this quite a lot of listens over the past 4 days. I think 5 full listens in 4 days. And seeming as I got like work and stuff between that is quite a lot of listens are given.
Also, the most memorable moment for me was Psychic Vampire, but mostly because it sounded a lot like a musical soundtrack. Like I was thinking, like Beauty School Dropout from Greece, mostly. Like,
and I will say, I figured you would give that song points because it doesn't have like the heteronormativity aspect to it.
And I wasn't really looking for that in this album necessarily, but
I know, but I figured you'd pick up on it.
Okay. But it was mostly just because, this sounds a lot like Beauty School Dropout. I haven't thought about Grease in a long time, but here we are.
Yeah, it does sound like the outro to one of those types of movies.
It was mostly just like me trying to find like certain things I liked about each song. Like I don't know if I remember all of them. Still don't know if I would remember all of the stuff in Violent Soho either. But Partying is such a sorrow.
I can remember the whole of Violent Soho because I've had 3 years of listening to it, whilst you two have only had like a couple of days, and I've only had a couple of days to do this. Yeah. So the Triggs can probably say everything about this album straight from heart, like I could from Violent Soho, but I can't. It's
really
a shame. I think she's got a lovely voice, and I do enjoy hearing her sing, but I
hear a lot
out of it. Just like it's taken a while to get out of it. It's a little too long for something that doesn't really change that much.
Like a lot of her influences, she sounds a lot like Stevie Nicks. I really like that. She kind of has a Dolly Parton.
She has less of a goatee witch voice, though.
There's some more Dolly Parton in there. I was really reminded through a lot of this album of Metric, and like especially like the Fantasies album that everyone knows of anything that they do.
Help! I'm alive. My heart's still beating like a hammer.
That was a fun song. It's just used in a lot of things now. But yeah, I kind of got a lot of that kind of vibe.
Yeah, like that. That's actually the sound of a sneaker wave.
A sneaker wave is like a surprise wave that could just take you into the ocean, something like that.
I gotta say, Sneaker Waves does win the award this week for best album art.
Definitely.
It's Lovely. It
60s
reminds me of
lettering.
Tycho. Album art.
Oh, definitely. Oh, I want to get some Tycho on here. Thanks for reminding me.
Oh, I do guys shout out Tristan for being from Illinois, and she went to DePaul University, which was pretty much neighbor to my college. Like I dormed with people from DePaul, so that's cool.
That's cool.
I appreciate that. I don't know why I go to Nashville to make these songs, but hey, whatever works for you.
It's an album where if you got me to listen to one of the songs, I would probably start to remember it, just kind of like muscle memory, remembering the song. But then, like, if you told me to just recite it from heart, I couldn't fucking remember a single thing.
Terrible, horrible humans take every moment for granted.
Psychic Vampire,
You
right?
know what? Scratch that. I can't even take it from Trixie.
That was
That's Psychic
New
Vampire?
York City. That was New York
okay,
City.
that's the one I also liked. Okay.
Psychic Vampire just starts off with Psychic Vampire. Dreaming of an empire. I think. Let me look up the...
I looked at all the sites for all the bands. I tried to really do my research. Tristan seems very interesting. She has developed her own aesthetic, her own look.
Just check out her beautiful Spotify bio. Mudborn, recalcitrant. I don't even fucking eco. Fucking just spell cunt. God. Jazz.
I wonder how involved these artists are in writing stuff like this. Like, I always go back to
Okay, I'm just gonna say though, there's a picture. I don't know if she ever listens to this, she's just gonna come out and punch me. But I'm just gonna fucking say it. There is a picture on her Spotify bio that looks like it's a still from a porno.
Oh.
Okay, I gotta take a look at this.
It's the one she's literally standing out front of a car. It's just the way that it's photographed, the way that she's posing, and she's got like a lip bite. And it swear it looks like a still from a porno.
They also have a close up of it too.
I don't think it'll show it on mobile.
I will see if I can copy it over onto Oh, there's a close-up version of it as well. I can't be the only one thinking that.
I would have thought of it until you said anything, but
it kind of does, doesn't it?
But and I don't know, like what is the triangles? What's going on there?
I don't know what's going on with the triangles.
Fashion's cool. I appreciate it. I still know what's going on there.
Yeah, it's like kind of weirdness of it that's kind of also helping me. I'll find a good picture for Trix.
Like, I wonder how much artists have like say in like what goes into like their Spotify profile or like their IMDb. It might depend on the artist.
Much at
like,
all.
if you look at like Tom Cruise's IMDb page, it sounds like it was written by him.
Here you go, Trix.
He's also crazy enough that I think that he has he would pay somebody to cure. Oh, I see it. Oh, with the short skirt. I don't even have it on Discord. I just found it in the
It
looks
the
like wide lapel.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's from porno.
I could see that.
Yeah, like obviously it's not. Like I searched. No, I didn't actually, but.
Tom Cruise's IMDb is like wild.
I would.
How much does it talk about the Scientology though? Deeply religious. Thank you.
Talks about him wanting to be a priest when he was a teenager.
Oh, he's Cancer.
There we go. Finally, this is beautiful. In 1990, he renounced his devout Catholic beliefs and embraced the Church of Scientology, claiming that Scientology teachings have cured him of the dyslexia that had plagued him all of his life. Also, they got him some great tax evasion. a kind and thoughtful man, well known for his compassion and generosity. That's it. That's all about the Scientology. It cured his dyslexia, and that's it.
That's how that works.
Yes,
Sorry
hello,
about
iPad.
this.
2 seconds.
It's,
Literally a seminary
the,
student.
It's the Scientology to get him.
He's gonna
Oh,
be
God.
like a priest, like a Jesuit or something. Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever. I guess
Eh.
he's Tom Cruise. He's doing better than we are.
Oh, he is wiping his ass with thousands.
Another
Absolutely
Top
no
Gun
problem, sir.
movie because why not?
And that is why I locked my door here. Anyway, shall we go back onto the Tristan guest for Derek? I think I said that
How much
right,
more to
actually.
say?
Not really. It is
Yeah,
probably. It is probably the most nothing album.
It's
That I
cool
think
that
we
like
probably-
it's DIY kind of.
Yeah, it's very. When I introduced her as like a lo-fi Taylor Swift. I think.
You do more as like a country album kind of thing.
Yeah, old Taylor Swift, like before Taylor Swift turned pop.
I
'Cause
guess
you got to remember Taylor Swift started off as a country artist.
it doesn't seem super country to me though. Like it has a country influence, but like it's
Yeah.
like more Fleetwood Mackie, so it's kind of more of a pop
Yeah.
to me.
I think it is probably the most nothing album though that we've talked about on just on this
Overall?
podcast so far. Yeah, overall. I think even Bag Raiders and Petite League had a bit more going into it. And even LSD last week, like because last week probably had the most nothing just in an episode full, but LSD that was bad enough to actually talk about. And
That
I
was
felt I felt like Petite League. Every time there's nothing to talk about in an album, I'm just gonna go back to LSD. Wink.
LSD had so much to talk about because we just liked it so much.
Yeah, and I feel like Bag Raiders and Petite League both still had more to talk about than this album did. It's consistent, but it's boring. It doesn't really change all that much.
I'm looking at
The songs are different from each other, but they still blend in a bit. And I kind of forget which one's which. I couldn't pick a favorite. I couldn't pick a least favorite. Or I could probably pick a favorite because Glass Jar was somewhat memorable. But yeah.
I like Psychic Vampire because of what I said earlier. I would like to see Tristan write a musical. I think that'd be really fun. She could really knock it out, I think.
I think like it's a good album, but like
I'm looking at what we've listened to so far.
I'd probably rate Petite League over this one, but I'd probably rate this one the same one at the same ranking level as Bag Raiders.
Looking at what we've
I
listened
would
to.
say give this a little bit more time to grow on you.
I'd probably have to. It's just at the moment. Again, it's probably out.
I can understand.
Say if I constantly listen to Janelle Monáe from week number 1, and maybe that album goes on me completely and becomes my favorite. Who knows? I doubt
That
it.
could
But
be
that's just
maybe
an
Last
example.
Dinosaurs. Because like I still think Last Dinosaurs there was not as much to talk about as we did. I don't know how we did that.
I talked about it for
Yeah.
like 30 minutes. I swear.
Like I'm looking at this
Yeah,
and
it
listen
was
to like
mostly
Adult
about-
Mom, and I could still talk about Adult Mom. I feel like more than this.
I seem to have a knack for picking albums that are just kind of nothing to talk about.
You get a lot of consistency in your albums, but with great consistency comes great boring.
If there's something I like, it's a consistent shit. I don't want to be straining at one end and having it at one end.
I really like
Same
kind of-
level of work all the way through.
like amorphous, weird, progressive, changey shit. So I always go
Oh
toward
man,
that.
rip your rectum.
It's no surprise I like
I-
prog
I-
rock, I guess.
Progress.
So with that, what's your What's your best and worst? I'm gonna just quickly say my best is Glassjar, and my worst I can't give because I can't remember anything else.
My best is Psychic Vampire. My worst is Into the Sun. I just remember not liking Into the Sun. I don't know why right now, but I remember distinctly not liking that song.
Let me remind myself what that one was quickly. Oh no, I can somewhat remember Clan Death Sign as well, but yeah, no, Into the Sun. Yeah, that's not really got much to it, does it? You know what? I'm just gonna jump on instead of listening to the album again and trying to find the rest. I'm just gonna jump on your bandwagon and say yeah, Into the Sun. Why not?
Tricks?
My favorite is probably Lions. I really like the songwriting in that song with the lyrics. If you listen into it, there's a lot going on. Least favorite, Alone Tonight. I don't remember it as much as the other ones, so I guess that's why I don't really enjoy it the most.
That's fair.
Like, I can remember that Frozen has a really cool tremolo guitar riff. Psychic Vampire is kind of like that classic style. Party in Such Sweet Sorrow is just a banger.
So,
listings.
Yeah. Also with the listings this week, because I believe you mentioned it, we're going to be doing song listings after the album listings.
Yes.
What I imagined was that we're going to do the album listings, and then we're going to each pick the best song of the week.
So we're just going to pick one as best song, and that's it. Just wanted to make sure.
Like
that
if someone had to listen to one song from all of this, which song would it be?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go.
Dominic, I'm gonna let Dominic start off with the ranking of the albums. Sorry, Tricks, if you wanted to start. I've just taken over this chat.
Like I said before, this has been a tough week for me to figure out what I like most. I don't think any of them are truly number one. I imagine it as like an accordion of like, if I really stretch, I could figure it out. And I think right now, like this could change. This has changed a couple times now. Right now, I'm going to put health first for the experimentation and for really going for it. And then Violent Soho is like right there. It's really close. I like the sound. I like a lot of what it's doing. I just think a lot of it's kind of repetitive. And then Tristan, I like Tristan's album. I would like to listen to it more. I just don't have anything more with it now. Oh,
Tricks, do you want to do your album rank? Do the songs last, everyone.
Yeah, we'll do songs last.
Yeah.
For me, I'm gonna have to go number 3 as Health. As much as I did enjoy it, it was grating to listen to, and I would probably only throw it on like, a couple times. I'd be more likely to throw Waco on than to throw on. And that's not really a jab at either of them. I thought they were both great. Just, Health is. I would rather listen to Waco, and so Waco is my number 2. Because over all of these, if I had to like pick one of the 3, more times out of none, I'd listen. And that's just what I gotta go with.
Again, your chat kept going out there, but I think we figured out what you're saying. Violent Soho is number 1 by an absolute far. Tristan at number 3. Okay, no. Yeah. So your 3-2-1 is Health as third, Violent Soho second, and Tristan number 1.
Exactly.
And the way you're talking about it this week, I feel like you're hearing it for the first time, where I've been hearing the cutout for like the entire time we've been recording this podcast.
I will try and invest in a better headset sometime soon.
Like it doesn't come across in the when we release the episode, so I always sound really crazy when I'm like, what did you say? Like no,
Don't
like
worry, I'll sound crazy with you, Dominic.
I do appreciate.
I'm just gonna sneak into my 3-2-1 now. Number 3, third place. I'm putting Tristan. I'm got bored by it. It's the more I think about it, the more I think it might slightly go into that bad, but it's not because every time I do actually listen to it, I'm going, yeah, I'm liking, but I think it's just one of those albums that I'll try down the line to give another listen to, but I might just ultimately forget about it. Number 2, the rankings are really easy for me this week, and I always feel bad how I select number 1 or what it ends up being, because number 2 is Health. I don't think Health was bad. I don't think it was great. I enjoyed it a lot more than Tristan because I think there was just more to talk about and actually grab me in it. But there was a lot grating about it that kind of hindered it from being the number 1 of the week. Number 1, I know I always choose my albums as number 1, and I somewhat feel bad for that, but Waco, despite it not still being as great as when I first heard it 3 years ago, enough of it does still hold up. There's a number of albums that we've already ranked that I would put it ahead of. If I go up to my rankings right now, actually, where the fuck are they?
I gotta sneeze.
Just making. Yeah. I would probably put it above of Montreal, but I think Diarrhea Planet is better than Waco. That's
All
just
three
my
of these are
current
going to be
thoughts.
lower on the lower end for me.
I feel like Health would be a middle ground, and Tristan would be quite low, but I reckon Waco would be still somewhat high up. Again, I mean, of Montreal and Diarrhea Planet are albums that I was both quite praising. So yeah, 3, 2, 1. Tristan at number 3, Health at number 2. I do think Health is a lot more. It's probably the most impressive of these albums, but I feel like a lot of it's just not executed well enough. And number 1, Waco by Valensaho. So
before we get into
shall we go into song?
I just want to get if anyone has listened to BTS and get our BTS update.
No BTS update for.
Nah, no BTS.
Ask every week.
I was too busy listening to these albums.
Same here. We had a shortened week, so I didn't get to it.
Good.
Yeah.
Because BTS will be in our rankings at the end of the year, so I want to make sure everyone gets a good listen.
Fully understandable.
I will give it a second listen at some point.
And I'm over here on like 10 or 11. That's fine. Anyway, song you'd most recommend to anybody who just wants to hear one. Any of these bands.
You go first, Dominic.
Okay, so I think I kind of thought of this because of Violent Soho, but I really like How to Taste. And I think if I were to recommend one song, it'd be How to Taste. It's just a great song. Really great opener. It kind of describes what that band is and what they're doing with that album, and it's just a really solid single. I really like it.
Interesting fact, it wasn't actually a single before the album was released. It was a single afterwards.
Which I don't know why they screwed that up, but mistakes can be made.
In fact, I think the only one that was a single before the album was released, the only two was Like Soda and Viceroy. I think everything else that was a single was released afterwards as a single. So Sentimental and Blanket, I think were the only other two.
What are you picking for song?
Oh, No Shade as well, sorry. Trix, you choose the song.
Okay, I'm gonna choose my number 1 for Tristan, which was Lions, just because I think it has great songwriting into it and good meaning if you look into it.
See, I was so certain for 5 seconds there that we were going to agree, both of us, on what the number 1 song of these 3 albums were, and now you just come and just put me down.
Were you thinking I was going to say Viceroy?
Yep. Surely that had to be close up though.
It was close up there, but if I had to just recommend one of them, I'd recommend Lion.
Okay, no,
Believe y'all.
That's fair, I guess. Yeah, no, the Viceroy is probably it's the other one that is close is again How to Taste. If it was probably the one to recommend, it would probably be How to Taste actually. But like my favorite, I'm choosing it as the like favorite because that's
Fine.
the better way.
That's fine.
Because How to Taste has that better intro, but like my favorite is still just Bites Way.
So, Viceroy, How to Taste, Lions. If any of those interest you, at least check one of those out. And so that brings us to next week. I'm just gonna get it out of the way and talk about how we're gonna talk about Crystal Castles, their first album, and as we do that, we also have to talk about the horrible abuse allegations that have come out of the band and Alice Glass and why she left the band and all that stuff. It's gonna be a very not fun part of the episode. I want to make that very clear that we are going to talk about it though because it is important. Most like not only because I believe her, but also because as someone who really likes this album and was a fan, like this was my high school album. Like this is like my number one high school albums, Crystal Castles. And to
How do
have
you
all that
think
come out,
I felt when Jesse Lacey's allegations came out when it comes to albums that you listened to in high school? What am I supposed to do with my emo when my emo leader is a pedophile?
yeah, I can imagine.
I don't think anyone was ever a Lost Prophets fan.
My point is, yeah, this album is tainted for me so much, and I want to enjoy it still. And that might sound selfish. I don't know. Like I can't.
I think there's going to be albums that I bring up around here where there's going to be some controversies around the band members that you might not know about in America because it's kind of just stupid drama, but it's drama nonetheless.
Yeah, that's. That's something I've struggled with a lot. Sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't. It really depends on
Nice
the situation.
cat. What's its name?
Let's not go back into that.
No one answer that, please.
Please don't.
I'm gonna say the N-word. You can't do that. That's racist. Penguin. Anyone who hasn't seen the Penguins of Madagascar obtain the N-word pass? That is classic shit YouTube videos.
Oh, wow, YouTube poop. Kind of racist.
It's a great video. Yeah. Anyway, so the first one there is going to be Crystal Castle's self-titled debut. Trix, what are you bringing up to the table? Yep, Taco Cat, Lost Time. Oh, imagine going and searching up something on Spotify. Instead of Taco Cat, it's Taco Car. Whatever. Guess I'll just die. Isn't that just beautiful?
Both had a song called Lost Time, and now Taco Cat has the album Lost Time. We're really just about losing time here.
Which means I should probably select my album soon.
You already talked about what you're going to pick.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise.
No. I have picked an album back from a year that we totally have not talked about, 2016, which, in quite contrast to Violent Soho, is an album that I do think has stood the test of time, and it is one of my favorites from 2016. I actually think we're going to have a lot to talk about in it. Is Big Scary's Animal. Just before we cut us off, I'd just like to say that one of the songs of there It was during 2016 was the year in which edgy kid having edgy life, edgy mindset and everything, and a lot of things came crashing down. Specifics aren't really necessary, but one of the songs off this album, I don't know, I kind of just like remember breaking down to it, and it ended up being just because of that and the emotional attachment to it, my number one song of the year. I think it's going to be quite a fantastic album to talk about.
Excited for that. Maybe I'll cry too. We'll see.
Get the tissues.
Hey. Tweet, 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 tweet.
No, adorable.
I also have a Twitter at DACICHOCKI. I've been Dominic. I have opinions on tiltingwindmillstudios.com, Medium, and other places, probably. Someone's probably called up to my identity or something. Who knows?
I'm Ritalin for Kids. You can find my identity because that's literally the name of my YouTube channel is my actual name. You can catch me on the YouTube channel that's linked in the description below. Also on my website, ritalinforkids.github.io. I probably won't be updating that for a while, seeing as I just finished the project. And again, I work full time, so a lot of my programming goes into that. But you know, still look, please. I beg you.
Lindsay Plains is worth a playthrough. I'll say that.
It's a beautiful project. I'm actually proud that I did a lot of that artwork. That's usually more than I do. Before we end off, I forgot to do it last week, where I was going to go recommend a song at the end of every episode, just from albums that. Yeah, sorry, I forgot you haven't plugged your Twitter because you plugged the Dissonant Waves. That's my fucking bad.
Hashtag content.
Yeah. Just a bit of a decision of what I should recommend here, but I think I was originally going to recommend the Dear Seattle single, but I reckon that EP that I was because I was talking about Dear Seattle a bit with the Valentine Soho, I reckon that EP will be something that I do bring up actually into this chat one day, as I do think there's actually quite a bit in it. So I'm instead going to recommend something from a band here in Australia that Dominic might get a bit interested from because they spark one of their major influences as Neutral Milk Hotel.
Go on.
And I'm going to choose something off their sophomore EP, Snow Globe, the song Lonely People by the band Tiny Little Houses.
Tiny. See you next week with our eyes. See you, but you won't see us.
Bye, Greg.
See how that is.